It's been nearly 2 years now since Lamb of God drummer Chris Adler has performed with the band, despite Lamb of God continuing to tour extensively, and now some fans are wondering about whether or not he continues to be in the band at all. Lamb of God drummer Chris Adler was involved in a terrible motorcycle accident back in 2017, and since then, he hasn't performed with Lamb of God. Adler revealed in a post on his Instagram in 2018 that he was dealing with a prolonged recovery from the injuries in that accident. He said at the time, "I had a motorcycle accident late last year that shattered my collarbone and right shoulder and also chipped bones in my hip. While surgery corrected the broken bones and I was able to play earlier this year, I experienced some issues related to the injuries that needed to be addressed with a rigorous schedule of physical and occupational therapy, which is what I've been doing regularly since July. I am making great progress in addition to playing and practicing every day. Playing drums is what I do and I refuse to do it poorly. I will be back behind the kit as soon as possible. Thanks again for the love. See you soon, Chris." And since then, Lamb of God has been performing on the Slayer Farewell Tour without Adler. Though since then, we have heard very little on Adler's status, and in an interesting turn of events, Randy Bly, the band's frontman, was asked during a recent interview if he had an update on the Lamb of God drummer. He said, "It's hard to say what's going to happen with Chris Adler. I have no comment on him," which is certainly not the most reassuring way to respond about his status with the band. And now, certainly fueling additional speculation about his status with the band, Adler actually has plans to return to the stage in another country, but not with Lamb of God, but rather at the Hail Rockstar Extravaganza in Russia, where he's slated to perform with the vocalist of Exodus, Violence guitarist Phil Demmel, and former Megadeth bassist James Lomenzo. Now, it just seems like there's much more to the story here, given the fact that Adler has been mum on his status in Lamb of God, and Randy Bly himself says that he doesn't know what's going to happen with him being in the band. It seems like there is a great deal of uncertainty, and with Adler performing shows with bands other than Lamb of God and musicians in other countries, mind you, it seems like he's perfectly capable to be performing with Lamb of God, who continue to perform these shows. So it makes you wonder what is happening behind the scenes with Lamb of God that's preventing this from occurring. We know that Lamb of God is at least trying to write a new album that some people speculated would be out later this year, but it makes you wonder if that's going to happen either, given the fact that he isn't back in the band, and that would require them to tour extensively into the future. You can probably expect we're going to hear some news about this in the next few weeks or months about what his status is, whether he's going to return or whether he's not going to return. But again, we know he has been recovering from this very serious series of injuries, but it's like an NFL quarterback who got injured and said he couldn't play with the team, then showing up at a rec league game and, playing his heart out. It's just sort of an interesting dynamic to see something like that, saying, I can't play up to standard, and then playing with another band. It's sort of odd. So we'll leave it at that, and let us know what you think in the comments. If you're new here, of course, be sure to subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss out on breaking hard rock and heavy metal news. That's all for now. Thanks so much for joining us here at Rockfeed, and we'll see you all very soon.